because I get this question all the time, like, how do you do everything? How do you do it all? I'm like, I don't. The answer is like, I don't do it all. I don't do everything. I pick the things that are really important to me and I protect them and I keep them and I do those things. And the other things that I can pass off, I hire that out. I don't do everything. I do the things that are really important to me over here in this bucket. And in this bucket, I find people that can fill those needs.
Welcome to the Growth Mavericks podcast, where we know that entrepreneurship isn't just about strategy. It's about stamina. It's about disrupting your default and getting comfortable being uncomfortable so you don't burn out before you break through. I'm your host, Adam Callinan. Let's get to work. Today, we are joined by Bree Van Leeuwen. She is the founder of Daily Shade. And this conversation hits on everything from sunscreen and sunscreen misinformation to the realities of building a physical product like this from scratch, from nothing, from concept. Bree is a PA, a physician assistant. She is a mom, and she is the founder that created Daily Shade after her daughter had a severe reaction to a sunscreen that looked safe, was marketed as safe, was made for kids. And Bree just thought there had to be a better way to do that. So this experience sent her down a 4-year formulation journey, live on that for a second, to create a true mineral sunscreen without all the chemical UV boosters and the 1,700 plus European banned ingredients and that thick white ghost face mineral afterthought that we all have when we use these super thick mineral sunscreens. So she figured out how to solve that problem. We spent a lot of time talking about why, for some reason, sunscreen has become this like very interestingly controversial topic. Talking about melanoma and its prevention, the problem with the misleading sunscreen marketing, FDA testing, contract manufacturing, and the difficulty with that, packaging issues, launching a direct-to-consumer brand with no formal background, which is epic. There's so much good stuff packed into there, and building a plane while you fly it, which is what we all do when we have startups. So we also get into one of the best founder life conversations that I have had here on Growth Mavericks, especially around motherhood, guilt, and the systems that we all need, but in particular, it seems like moms need in order to be able to build to be entrepreneurs and try to maintain some balance in there. So it's a really important conversation and another great one here on Growth Mavericks. Let's get into it. Get into the world of sunscreen. I mean, I definitely want to spend some time talking about Daily Shade and your background. Yeah.
So how did I get into the world of sunscreen? I fell into this by complete, not accident, but it wasn't a plan for me to fall into this. So I've been practicing medicine as a PA for a number of years. And at the time that I thought about starting this company, it was in 2020. I'd been practicing medicine for, I don't know, over a decade at that point. So I was living in South Alabama with my husband for his job. And it just happened to be that my license as a PA didn't transfer to Alabama. So I'm in Utah practicing. Then we moved to Alabama, and I went from having this really great career to not a lot. I was a stay-at-home mom. I wasn't doing a lot. And we did have a pool. So not that I wasn't doing a lot. I was doing a ton. Stay-at-home moms work harder
plenty
than
to do.
anybody else.
That's a full-time job. Yeah, incredibly difficult
full-time job. I was doing more than normally I probably did working full-time. Well, they're both hard. They both have their things. But anyways, different conversation. But I was in Alabama, and we were swimming quite a bit. We were at the pool a lot. And I was very serious about sunscreen. I had worked in reconstructive facial plastic surgery before coming to Alabama. So in the state of Utah, melanoma is the number one state in the entire, Utah is the number one state in the entire country for melanoma, which is the most dangerous form of skin cancer. And we're 3 times the national average here. I think that shocks a lot of people because they think, oh, it's got to be California or Hawaii or Arizona or Florida or somewhere where it's really sunny and you're out in the sun all the time. And the truth is it's right here in my home state of Utah. And that's because of the elevation, the altitude, the year-round sports, the snow reflecting 150% more UV rays. And it's also, melanoma is the number one cancer in young people aged 26 to 30. I think a lot of people think that skin cancer is a disease of 80-year-old white men. I think that's sort of the picture that people have for skin cancer in their head. And we need to flip that because it's so much bigger than that, so much broader. It is the most common cancer in young people aged 26 to 30. That is crazy. And I think the really crazy part is it is 90% preventable. Like, we are talking about a cancer that is the most common cancer in America that is over 90% preventable. There are some cases within that 10% that are familial. It is a different kind of conversation, but 90% 90% of those cases could have been prevented with proper sun protection. So I just think that's a really interesting conversation. Like if you know, someone said like, here is a bra, and if you wear this bra, there is a 90% chance you won't get breast cancer. Every woman would be wearing the bra. And yet we're saying, here is a product and here are some strategies you can use that 90% chance you won't get skin cancer. And people aren't doing those things. They're not taking that advice and that information to heart. So anyways, I was in Alabama and we were using the sunscreen at the pool every day. I was very, very serious about sunscreen just because of my background. And we were using sunscreen that made my kids look very much like a white ghost all over the place, right? They were white, but I was in my backyard. I didn't care what they looked like. I just wanted them to be safe from the sun. So I'd cover them in white, all over their face. And we went out to Destin for my daughter's 1-year birthday cake smash. And I said to my husband, like, oh, I want to put sunscreen on her, but I don't want her to have a white face for the pictures because it's, this like moment of she's smashing this cake. So we went out and got a different brand that a friend of ours was like, oh, this doesn't make your kid look white. And I said, okay, great, let's use that one. But it did say 100% mineral on the front and it had a baby on the front. And so as a parent, you think you're doing the right thing. We put the sunscreen on her and you can see us in real time as she's smashing the cake. You can hear us saying, what is going on? Why is she breaking out into hives? Wait, she's having an allergic reaction. What's happening? She starts rubbing her eyes. Her eyes are just this watery mess. She starts getting these visible hives and bumps all over her skin and her face. It was in real time. And you can hear us saying, like, is it the strawberry drink she had at the restaurant? Is it the cake frosting? What's going on? Like, we were just so confused. And so we had to put her on a steroid cream, and eventually things calmed down after a couple of weeks, but it was so bad. And then I used that sunscreen again, not knowing, and she broke out in the same just horrible blistering hives all over her arms and face. And I felt like the worst mom in the world, Anyway, it was in that period of time that I realized that there is a very serious gap in the sunscreen market where parents think that they are using a mineral sunscreen, right? Like we all know in our mind, there's this connotation that mineral is best. And so we choose the one that says mineral on the front of the package, not knowing better. And the truth is there's so many nuances in sunscreen. There's so many nuances in the marketing game and what is allowed legally to be put on a sunscreen bottle. It still blows my mind what's allowed to be put in the marketing on the front of the bottle. So there's a lot of nuances. That was the moment that I realized, okay, there's either like this true mineral sunscreen category that leaves my kid looking like a white little ghost running around and just ridiculous that I would be okay with in my backyard pool. But if we were going somewhere public, I wouldn't want to look like that. I know they don't want to look like that. It's sticky, it's thick, it's hard to get it on them. But that existed and it was safe and worked really well. And then there was this other category of aesthetically pleasing sunscreens that I loved how they went on. I loved how my kid looked in them. But there wasn't anything that was both. And that was the first time that I realized that. And then I started spending just hundreds, well, thousands actually, of dollars trying to find one. And it got to the point where my husband was like, babe, we got to call it a day. It doesn't exist. Pick the one that is the least white. Let's go with that one and call it a day, or make your own. That was like, those are the things we can do. And I thought, yeah, I could make my own sunscreen. How would I do that? What would I do? How would I fix this? That was really the moment. That was the environment where this really came to be. And that was in 2020. No, let's see. That would have been even before that because I started the company officially in 2020. I did the name in 2020. So it was a couple of years before that. But yeah, 2018, I guess, was the first time that I had the thought. And then 2020, I really got moving. We called The Chemist. We got the name going. And then it took us 4 years of development and we launched in June of 24.
So there's so much goodness in all of that. And it follows a relatively traditional founder story of having a problem, solving the problem, selling the problem to other people, or selling the solution to the problem to other people.
Yeah, no better entrepreneur than a desperate mom. Like I think that's the fiercest entrepreneur,
I mean,
Mama Bear.
Could not agree with that more. And I end up having, the opportunity to speak to a lot of mama bears like that. I mean, the podcast that will come out right before yours is with a mama bear who created a thing to solve a problem that was a family, a family thing. Really, it's really interesting and compelling. When you started that process, when you made the decision, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make my own sunscreen. Who did you call?
Okay, so I
What
have,
did you do?
yeah, I called a lot of places. So I started calling in manufacturers. That's where I started. I started saying, okay, if I'm going to do this, who do I call? Sunscreen is a drug in the United States, so it has to be regulated through not only an FDA facility, but an OTC FDA regulated facility. And there's not very many of those that exist. It's a very specific kind of production that is allowed. So there weren't a lot of manufacturing houses. So I really started calling all of them. I called most of them that I could find. That they were shooting out at me were just mind-boggling. Like, they'd say, okay, if you want to make a sunscreen, we'll send you the formulations that we have, right? It's called like white labeling. We have formulations that we have here. They've already passed FDA testing, and basically all you do is just find the formula that you like, and then you put you manufacture it, put it in your own packaging and sell it. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do something different. So I started explaining what I wanted to do to these manufacturers. And they would say, well, we don't have a formula like that, which was basically removing all of the UV chemical boosters. So within a mineral formula, and I'm doing air quotes, a mineral formula, that just means that the active ingredients are mineral, right? And you can have half mineral in the active ingredients, like some chemicals, some mineral. But if I said, no, I want a full mineral formula, they'd say, oh, yeah, we have this formulation. They'd send me the ingredient deck, and I'd say, no, the active ingredient is zinc. That's great. But in your inactive ingredients, you have a lot of chemical boosters. I don't want any of the UV chemical boosters, because that's what my daughter was reacting to. And there's a lot of safety questions around the chemical boosters. There's endocrine disruption issues, allergic potential. There's a lot of issues there. And I'd say, no, 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 I don't want any of the UV chemical boosters. And they'd say, well, we don't have a formula like that. Okay.
So that takes it outside of FDA
No,
coverage,
it doesn't.
removing something.
They don't make it. It just isn't done. Like it
Okay,
doesn't take it out
got
of it. It isn't done because zinc is so white and thick and pasty. And what companies do is they put a bunch of boosters in it because they can decrease the amount of zinc, and they can load it with chemical boosters like butyl salicylate. And they don't have to put the percentage. Like on the active, they have to put, okay, we're using 10% zinc, 15% zinc, 20% zinc. They have to list it. But in an inactive ingredient deck, you're not required to list the percentages of inactive ingredients that you're putting into your formula. Like the consumer doesn't know how much of the inactive ingredient I have, how much of any of those sunscreen ingredients are there. You just have to report the active. So what companies do, and what I know they do, because I went to these manufacturers and I know the percentages in them, they put a little bit of mineral and a ton of UV chemical boosters. And the booster, like butyl salicylate, chemically speaking, is almost identical to a UV chemical filter missing one bond. It's like one hydrogen bond off of a UV chemical filter. And the only reason it's not is because nobody paid to have it listed as an active. Like it isn't registered through the FDA. It hasn't gone through the, years and years and years of approval to get it listed as an active, which is a really convenient, nice loophole for sunscreen companies, right? Like it does the exact same thing. It's the exact same ingredient and the exact same process, but they don't have to report the percentages, and they don't have to list it as an active. Like it is the perfect situation for sunscreen companies. And they have been using this loophole since the beginning of sunscreen. Yeah, it was tricky because all the manufacturers just kept saying like, oh yeah, we don't do that. That can't be done. The formula will be too thick, and you won't want it. It'll be too thick. And I said, well, why can't we make one that doesn't have the booster, but we can make it cosmetically elegant? Why can't we do that? And I said, well, I mean, you could. It would just take you a ton of iterations. It would take you, upwards of 15, 20, 30 iterations. And I said, well, let's do that. Let's start working on it. And not in a rush. Let's try to figure it out. And then they would send me the cost, and they'd say, okay, it's going to be, it's $50,000. We'll send you our first iteration, and you get 4 chances to redo it. So we'll send it to you, and we'll redo it 4 times. And if you don't like it, then you have to pay us another $50,000 for the next 4 iterations. And I said, well, if you're telling me it's going to take us like 15 to 20 iterations, I can't afford that. I mean, I'm going to be in so much money by the time we get to a formula.
$300,000 into iterations.
Yeah. I would be in, so 50,000 is 4 iterations. So if I even got to 8 iterations, I'd be in $100,000 before I even had a formula that was half of what we wanted it to be. I would be in hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of R&D. And I just said, I can't do it. So I kept calling manufacturing places. None of them were on board with trying to figure this out. Like, it just would take too long. And then when I added on the layer of, hey, also, you guys have a lot of ingredients in here that are banned in the EU. I want to be ready for global entry. I want all 1,700 ingredients banned in the EU to be banned in my product. They thought I was insane. Like they just basically said like, this is not, and they're working with big, big manufacturers, like, the big players, the Neutrogenas, the Coppertones, the Sunbums, like they're working with all of these big players. And I was this little fish that probably would do one order and not come back. And it wasn't worth it to them to really work with me, unfortunately. So it was really tricky. I ended up finding a cosmetic chemist who was in my community here. I knew that he had worked in cosmetic formulation, and I ended up calling him after I had a lot of really depressing phone calls with some manufacturers. And I called him and said, hey, like I have this idea. What do you think? And initially he was like, this isn't done. This is the reason. I said, yeah, I know all the reasons, but what do you think? Like, do you think we could do it? And he's like, I think we could try. And so then he said, let me think about it. I'll call you back. And then he called me the next day and he said, look, can I partner with you on this? Like, what if, I did the formulation aspect and took a piece of equity and we tried to do this together? And I said, that would be great. So then this cosmetic chemist and I worked for 4 years to get this product right. I mean, this is why the big boys don't do this, is because they're missing out on 4 years of money coming in, and the stakeholders are mad and they're failing, and they have to answer to a whole bunch of people. I didn't have to answer to anybody. It was just like, let's see if we can figure this out on the back end. And it took us, I think, probably 6 months to a year longer than it should have because of COVID. We had a lot of issues with backlog testing, products not getting to us quite quick enough. But even without COVID, it was 3 solid years of formulation and testing and failed testing and fixing it and going back. And it was hard, but here we are.
And during that time, are you still working as
Yeah,
a
during
PA?
that time, I was in Alabama for a couple of those years, and so I wasn't really working. I was home. And then when I came back to Utah, yes, I actually transitioned into full-time teaching at Utah Valley University's PA program. When I came home, they offered me a job to get the PA program started at UVU, and I said yes, and I was there for 3 years before I quit my job to do this full-time. Yeah, and while I was there, it was this really beautiful moment because when I was at UVU, I was a tenure track professor, and part of that is you have to do research as part of being a tenure track professor. And I was put on a grant that was called the Skin Cancer Awareness Grant, the SCAN grant. So we literally studied how to prevent skin cancer for a living. That's what I did at this place. So I was the PI on a research grant studying how to prevent skin cancer. So it was like this beautiful combination of my worlds coming together. And then I quit my job officially in January of 25. So about a year ago, like a crazy person.
And what a fortuitous coming of events.
Here we
That's
are.
amazing. So
With
you
my Mario
finally get the
cup for my kids.
formula. No, I love it. Yeah, you don't want to see all the cups I have on my desk full of kid stuff. So you finally get to the formula that does what you want, has the things that you want. I assume it's probably EU approved for all the things.
It has more than the EU banned ingredients. It's 1,700 plus banned ingredients. Yes.
Epic. And then you have the formula, then you have to go to packaging and design and all
Not
this
my
stuff.
strong suit.
How'd you get into that rabbit hole?
It's not my strong suit. Like, honestly, we've redesigned the packaging since, but because we had to buy such a huge amount of product, we haven't we haven't reordered the packaging. I have it designed. We just haven't reordered it because I had to get through 30,000 bottles of the original packaging before we could move to the new one. And the packaging is really, really hard. And honestly, it's not my strong suit. I think I was bootstrapping it. So I was doing everything on our own. So we hired a family friend who was a graphic designer. And, I had it in my mind what I wanted. And I think looking at it now, obviously we've changed a bunch because we've redesigned it, but the current packaging, I wanted it to reflect something that was not medicinal looking. I didn't want it to look like very boring and medicinal product that it actually really is. It's just a really clean, boring sunscreen, but I didn't want it to look like that. I wanted it to look like something kids would want to pick up because I'm really trying to target the kid audience. I want kids to feel like it's exciting and fun and part of their daily routine. And I wanted it to feel light and happy. When I was living in Alabama, we would go to Seaside, Florida a lot, which is where my daughter did her cake smash. This is the moment where my daughter was on the beach at Seaside, Florida doing her cake smash when this whole thing occurred. And there, I don't know if you've ever been there, but the sky there, the sunsets, the sunrises, everything about it looks like cotton candy sky. It has these clouds they look like cotton candy in the sky. And it's the most beautiful sky I've ever seen. And the person helping us design the graphics said, I just want it to look like a cotton candy sky. I want it to be the bluish greenish water of the Emerald Coast, and I want cotton candy skies. And that's sort of where we landed. And I love the vibes. I love the color still. We kept all of that. I love the feeling of it. I don't ever want to get rid of that. It feels so gentle and happy. And I'm kind of like a bull. Like colors like red and orange make me really ornery in life. I don't even really know why. It's just like when I see the color red, I'm like, oh, I just get really ornery about it. So I didn't want any of those really harsh colors. I wanted to keep it feeling aesthetically light and happy and pleasing for people. But I have done some market research and data analysis that has said that, consumers want it to feel a little bit more sagey, a little bit more, I guess, medically related. So we've adjusted it to feel more like that. But even the original packaging, like I know we'll look back on it one day and it'll look so different than what we have, but there's just a special place in it in my heart where it was so authentically the brand and me. And it was like the amount of time that I spent slaving over that packaging. Like I have it right here. Like see how it has these sunset sky and then
Yeah.
this,
Yeah, I have it
the
up on my
amount of
monitor over here.
time
I think
I
it looks great.
spent.
It's like perfectly kid friendly. It's great.
The amount of time I spent doing this was ridiculous. And then what happens, let me tell you, when we sent it off to the printer, see how my logo totally goes away and blends it didn't look like this on a printing screen. And they don't send you one printed and say, do you approve this? They send you a printed copy and they say, do you approve this printed copy? And the printed copy looked great. You could see the logo really clearly. It popped really well. And then when they sent us 30,000 of these bottles, my logo disappeared. I'm like, are you kidding me? And again, like I'm not someone who does this for a living. I've been practicing medicine for the, better part of my life. I don't do manufacturing. I don't do product development. I don't, this isn't what I do. I don't do graphic design. So I've learned a lot, but like, man, I just have a special place in my heart for this. Obviously we've had to fix some things, but even still, when I see it, it brings me so much joy. And like, see, we have this ghost with the line through it because it's no more ghost face. We trademarked the ghost and everything. But anyway, it still brings me joy when I see it. But yeah, the amount of
I think it
time,
looks
that
great.
went into that was just silly.
Yeah, I mean, what you're experiencing is pure
Yeah.
entrepreneurship. It is called building the plane while
Yeah.
you fly it. It's how
Laying
it
the
always
tracks as it's
works.
going
It's
down.
going to work like this for
Uh-huh.
a
Yep.
while.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
just the way it works.
Exactly right.
So when you how did you manufacture it? Were you able to take that formula back to one of those manufacturers and be like,
Yeah.
just make
Yep.
this?
Took the formula back. So we own all of our own formulas. So there's no white labeling at our company. We never will have white labeling. We have in-house cosmetic chemistry that happens here. So we own our formulations. Then we take that formula and very specific instructions back to a contract manufacturer. And we say, we want to make this. And then they make it, and it doesn't always go the way it doesn't always go well. We had a failed production batch. It completely separated. They didn't follow our instructions, so they followed the ingredients just fine, but they didn't follow the instructions. They didn't do the proper mixing time and have all the valves and all the things. They didn't follow the instructions on it. And what happened is because of that, it completely separated. The emulsion layer just split. So the product is on the bottom. I wish I had it somewhere around here, but there's water on the top, product on the bottom. It just completely split and separated. And that was a huge debacle. That was one of the most difficult moments of my life. We were in January. We were in Florida for the month of January. We were there for my husband's work and my work, trying to get the sunscreen into some boutiques. And I got a phone call that it had failed and that we were responsible to pay for this product. And I was so taken back by it. I got on the call with 3 men who were in the industry. I was not in the industry. It was just me against these 3 men that worked at this manufacturing place. Yeah, like I felt very much like a girl who had no idea what she was doing, and they were telling me what it was supposed to be. They were telling me they were telling me like, this is how much you owe, and this is, and I said, wait, I have provided you a product that works, ingredients, instructions that work. You guys just didn't follow them. And now you're telling me that I owe the money for the manufacturing process. And they said, yeah, it's your responsibility. And it was like a $50,000 hit. Like it was a lot of money. And that was horrible. Like it was just a really, really horrible. And we got down to it. And I actually talked to the owner of the manufacturer. I got to the point where I went above them to their boss, the person who owns the manufacturing house. And it's a big contract manufacturer, right? Like these people are doing like huge production. I'm just the smallest fish in the world to them. I don't really matter to them really yet. Don't matter to them yet, probably. Not that I don't matter, but I'm just a small fish. And when I talked to the owner, he actually was incredible. And he said, no, this is our fault. This is not your fault. Like, you gave us a working formula and we failed it. That's our fault. Like, we need to take responsibility for this. We need to take ownership of this. I'll give you the credit back. Let's start over. Let's try again. And I can't tell you what that did for me with that manufacturer. It made me, as an entrepreneur, want to stick by that manufacturer and say, okay, you get my business. I'll try with you again. And had it had not gone down that way, they would have lost my business forever. I would never have gone back to them. And they almost did. The 3 people below that were going to take the hit, it made them look bad, right? Because it was their job and they had to report it. And then, right? And so I see why they did it. And I see that. And I don't want to judge them too harshly. But also, like, what happened to doing business the right way and taking responsibility if you fail?
Yeah.
Doing
Just
the
doing
right
the right
thing.
thing.
Like,
You should judge
yeah,
them harshly. That is
it's not good
not
behavior. Like, what
That is
happened to
not
doing the right
okay.
thing in business? It's like if I hired a tile guy and I provided him the tiles and I said, can you lay these tiles in my bathroom? And he went through and broke all the tiles and didn't lay the tile and then said, you still have to pay me and still pay for the tile. Like, we would shout from the rooftops on social media, like, never hire this tile guy. He was the worst tile layer. Don't ever do, and we wouldn't pay him. But yet I was put in this position and I think they were taking advantage of me a bit because I didn't know better. I'm not someone who works in this industry. And they said, well, this is just how it goes. This is industry standard. And I said, well, even if it is, that's wrong. It shouldn't be that way. So, I had to call my attorney. We had the conversations and I drew up a new contract. So the contract that I originally had with them, I kind of just trusted it. I signed it because I thought, like, that's how it went. And as a new business owner, don't ever do that. Like, you need to take that contract to your lawyer. And that contract is not like, sign this or don't work with me. It's an open beginning conversation of, hey, this is what we're willing to do. And then you say, great, this is what I'm willing to do. This is what I'm not willing to do. And then you go through and you do a new contract that you both agree upon. And I didn't know that. I know that sounds so stupid, but like, I just didn't know that's how it worked. I just thought, like, you agree to their terms or they don't work with you. And that isn't the case. Like, that conversation and that initial contract is just like, this is what we do. And then you hire somebody and it just goes back and forth till you feel comfortable. So now we have an agreement in place that is not just so one-sided. It's much more equal and fair. And it was a whole thing, but now we're in a good place. But it was a really difficult moment for me. I thought, like, I'm going to go under. I can't. If I would have had to have paid that and not had product in my hand to sell, I would have gone under.
Quick break, and this one is personal. Your ROAS is lying to you. I know this because mine lied to me for years. When I was building Bottle Keeper, I'd see a 4x ROAS or 5x ROAS, and I think we were absolutely crushing it. When we get to the end of the month, we'd see our P&L, and we barely broke even. Now, the dashboards and the platforms, all the things would say one thing. The bank account and the P&L said something entirely different. They were disconnected. The problem wasn't ads. It wasn't marketing efficiency. It's that those output metrics like ROAS and MER, they don't account for all the stuff that crushes your margins. These are things that are shipping and fulfillment, credit card fees, Shopify fees, the marketing agency we're using, the paid media itself. That's the only thing that ROAS accounts for. But there's all these other expenses. So I built this framework that starts with net profit and works backwards to tell you exactly how to spend ad budget and how the ROAS needs to perform in order to hit your net profit target. These aren't benchmarks. It's literally your numbers and expenses based on what's happening in your business. And best of all, I'm giving these secrets away for free in a profit masterclass that I created recently. It's the exact system I used at Bottle Keeper to get to over 60 million in total sales with just 4 employees and 0 investors, ultimately to a private equity acquisition. So you can find this profit masterclass at pentane.com. But for now, let's get back to the show. Yeah, and there's more entrepreneurial lessons building the plane while you fly it. The point you're already at it. Like, the point of a contract is not for when things are going great. It doesn't matter when things are going
insurance.
great. It's for when things go bad.
You need it.
Just so we have clarity on when it goes bad, what happens next. And that's the whole point.
And I think naively, I didn't understand that I could have a say in that. I didn't understand that I could say, like, hey, I'm not comfortable with this or that. And then the amount of times we went back and forth, I was like, oh, now we're doing business. This is what it looks like. And then I understood, like, this is what this looks like. So a couple harsh lessons, but it worked out. Luckily, thanks to a manufacturer owner who wanted to do the right thing. And even though he could have argued that because of the way I signed the contract, because legally he's right. I did sign a contract that said that's what I agreed to. But he looked at it and said, you know what? I hear you. It isn't right. Let's make it right. Let's rework it. And I was so grateful for that. I always will be grateful for that.
Thank you for doing the right thing.
No,
Doesn't seem like it should be that hard,
that's the right
but
thing.
that's the right thing. So that's great. So how did you launch the product? Did you go straight direct to
Yeah.
consumer first? Did you
Yeah,
go to
we did
retail?
D2C. We're still all D2C. We're in about 28 doors across the country of just boutique stores. We're not in regional or national distribution yet, so we're D2C. We were on Amazon until the following year, so we were just on our own website, and I had no idea what I was doing. Like I put up a website, and initially it was like, I don't even know how, like we got the domain name, and then what platform do you use to actually have a website? And it was just all these things that I just didn't know, that seem so silly now. But at the time, I didn't know any of it. But we got the website up and did most of the work ourselves. We hired a really great graphic design girl who helped us kind of finish things on our platform and get it going. We didn't market. We didn't spend money on Facebook ads. We didn't do anything. I had just for the last, 3-4 years had been kind of saying on my social media account that had 3,000 followers on it, like, hey, this is the process, this is what we're doing. People were following it. And so when I posted on there, like, hey, we're live, it was so fun. We got sales they just kept coming in and coming in and coming in. And it was the most exciting thing. We were actually we were in the Orem City parade, and we were sitting in the meeting for the parade. Before you can be in the parade, you have to go sit through a meeting. And we were in that meeting when we went live. And the whole time it was like, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. And I kept looking over, I mean, like, oh
Yeah.
my God. Yeah.
In your
Yeah.
Shopify app?
And I was like, what
Yeah.
is that noise?
Yeah,
Like
that's
when
cool.
it went off the first time, I'm like, what is that funny little sound? And then I was like, that's the best sound I've ever heard. But yeah, so that the first few weeks, actually a few months, were so fun because it was just like natural sales coming in. It was just like, it just started selling, and it was so fun. And then I realized, okay, after your people know about you, you have to get new people. Now you have to go find new people to know about your product. And that was a whole new world for me. But yeah, initially the launch was just fun. And it wasn't even like I did what was your launch strategy? I figured out how to put up a website, and I posted about it a little bit on Instagram, and that was it. And then after that, I'm like, oh man, yeah, you do need a launch strategy. You need a marketing plan. But I didn't know any of that. I just put it up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great though. I mean, I do think that this is a really important point for soon to be or want to be entrepreneurs that have an idea and have a thing and have a tendency, whether because of school or because of perception or whatever, that you need to spend like months and months and months creating this insane plan and have the projections and have the pro forma that's 5
I
years
didn't have
out.
any
Like
of that.
that's realistic. And yeah, well, no, that's the point. Those people shouldn't do that. Like, to be clear, I'm not saying don't have any plan, but the second you go to execute it,
Yeah.
all of it changes. So action in that case, which
Yeah.
is exactly what you did, the action is where the education comes from.
Yeah.
Like, don't overcomplicate it. And you didn't. And it sounds like it
did.
really worked. Like, it got it moving.
Yeah,
It got
which was the
product in people's
point.
hands. I mean, you had to make some
Right.
changes after that. Yeah, but you started building the plane while you were
Got
flying
the
it, but you
plane
got the
off.
plane off the ground and you didn't overcomplicate it. And that
Thank you.
there is beauty
Yeah.
in that.
It was naive beauty, but yeah, beauty in it nonetheless.
Whatever. Whatever. It really is cool. It is cool. I mean, I end up speaking in just in like the world that I operate in now to a lot of entrepreneurs that have things that they want to do, and they get into this analysis paralysis cycle.
Just
And
do
it's like,
it.
just start. Literally doing anything is better than
Yeah.
doing nothing.
Yep.
Planning is not doing. It's doing
Yep.
nothing. Just do something. Anything. You'll learn and you'll adjust and adapt
100%.
and you'll figure it out as you go. That's the way these things work. So why today are people pushing away from sunscreen? Like, what are they learning about? What influencers are
Oh
leading them
yeah,
astray
this is a whole conversation.
and
Yeah,
becoming anti-sunscreen?
I really think that this movement started. I mean, there were always the super, super, super crunchy people who were like, we don't believe in sunscreen, or if they did, they would just put a strip of white zinc down the middle of their nose, right? But I think that COVID really opened the floodgates to this, where we started questioning everything. And I'll be honest, even as somebody who was trained in the medical system and I've been practicing medicine for a very long time, I really had to rethink a lot of what I had been taught, right? Like I I didn't ever get the COVID vaccine, full disclosure. I know people hate that. That is what it is. My kids never did. My husband never, like, we just didn't, which isn't really like me, right? Like, I was like, you vaccinate and you do all the things. And then all of a sudden there was this moment that switched and flipped where I thought, man, we need to, I also fell into that, like, what are we being told? What are we being, all these things, you just sort of rethink a lot and you start thinking about things in a different way. I think the opening of that really affected sunscreen use. And I also think TikTok has had a really massive role in why people don't wear sunscreen and why people are starting to tan again. There was this period of time when I grew up in the 80s. Well, I grew up in the late 80s and the 90s where people were using tanning beds. It was like I was 14 years old going to a tanning bed. No one even asked a question about that. Like, what for? I mean, it's crazy when I go back and think about it in my mind. And back in those times, you and I have kind of talked about this. No one was wearing sunscreen. Like, it was not a thing that was happening back when I was growing up. It wasn't, maybe when I went to the pool for a long period of time, but like, as a 16-year-old girl, I would lay out at Riverside Country Club covered in baby oil. Like, I was trying to get as tan as I possibly could. And I would even go to the tanning bed and get that, like, that little heart or the Playboy bunny. Like, I didn't even know
Like
what
a
the Playboy bunny actually
sticker
really
thing. Yeah.
insinuated, but like, I was putting that on my body, like, oh, look how funny. Like, the Playboy bunny's white, my skin's tan. Like, just so dumb. But I didn't know better. It was part of the culture. And so I think there was that period of time. Then there was this middle section where people kind of quit tanning and they started using sunscreen more regularly. And now we're back to people don't trust sunscreen and people want to get as tan as they can. People don't wear sunglasses because the sun somehow magically makes your skin, protect it better against sun, which is false. It's just not a true thing. Which I've investigated because, again, question everything. Like, I've investigated that one is not a thing. But I think that has opened the door to, young girls posting like, the UV index is 9, hurry and run out and see how tan you can get. And it kind of has come in series, but we're in this wave of people having a lot of distrust of the man and the system and big pharma in general. And then really thinking like there's so many benefits to hours and hours of exposure to the sun unprotected, which again is not real. And they have to get their vitamin D in, which again, it only takes about a very, very short amount of time to actually get that in.
Yeah, isn't it like
Yeah.
10 minutes, 15 minutes? It's like a
It's
short period
very,
of time.
very,
You have a
very
melanin
short. Like,
response.
if you sat out for a total of about 30 minutes a week with unexposed skin, so 10 minutes a day, a couple of times a week, that's it. That's all you need. And yet people think like, I need to lay out for hours upon hours without sunscreen on. Well, no. Now you only have a certain amount of vitamin D that your body can take in and utilize properly. And after that point, it's just excess. There's no benefit. Now you're just doing damage to your skin. There's this is, again, like, I think some people take a little bit of information and then just go to the extreme of it. I think we're seeing a lot of extremes in the world right now. We're seeing a lot of extremes in a lot of areas. And I think sunscreen is under one of those extreme moments where people either wear it or they don't. There's not this nice middle area where it's like, well, let's choose a safe product, one that has non-toxic ingredients, one that's true mineral, and let's be safe and smart about the sun. Let's, try to avoid it between 10 and 2. And if we're out in 10 and 2, like, wear a UV rash guard and use really good high quality non-toxic sunscreen everywhere else on your face. And right. But there's these conversations of like, you either have to not believe in sunscreen or you believe in it. And it's very polarized in this time. I don't even know if that answered your question, but a lot of thoughts in that.
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, I think there's a couple of things in there that are really important that I entirely agree with. I don't know if you can see on my wall right here. There's literally a sign that
I can
says
only
question
see,
everything.
I can see
And
you
it's
up
not because
until
I'm
like,
oh,
yeah,
I
I can't see
my
it.
camera's like attached to the desk, so I can't move it. But there's literally,
That's so
and I've had it
interesting.
for 15 years. And it's not because I'm like a super
Me
conspiratorially,
either. Yeah.
minded person. It's not that at all. It's just, I think the value of the question
I
why
do too.
is incredible. Like a well-placed why. It's my last company, Bottle Keeper. We got to like 10 million in revenue in a couple of years with no employees, no investors. And everybody told me I couldn't do that. And I always, it's like, why? Well, because you can't, you have to go raise money. It's like, why? Well, because you have to do this. Is like, you get a certain number of whys down the line and the whole thing just falls apart.
Adam.
And so I think it's important to ask those questions. And I also think that all the bad stuff happens at the extremes in literally everything. I mean, you could go down the list, like politics, religion, military, non-military, like just all the bad stuff. Do you raise $1 bazillion? Do you raise no dollars? Do you like all of it? it happens. The bad stuff is in the extreme. So operating somewhere in the middle, we
Yeah.
don't have to have a binary outcome. It doesn't have to be a yes or a no. There is like this whole space in the middle there, which is where I think that's where all the good stuff is. It's like,
I love that
that's
you
kind of
have
where the
that saying
balance
up there.
lives.
Yeah, I've never felt that way more than I do now as well, and I agree, I'm not a big conspiratorial person, but I do think that there are some things that we've been told for a long time, and when you look back, you're like, "But why is that? Why have we been told that? Why is that the way that that is?" And I think someone coming in having no business background, I mean, like, I don't even still know how to do an Excel spreadsheet. Like, it's still not something that's in my wheelhouse of knowledge. Like, I just don't have a business background. Being able to come into it with those kind of eyes and say, but like, when someone tells me it's done that way, and me being able to say, that's so odd. That's weird. Why are we doing it that way? And then saying, this is just how it's done, has really opened up the world for me of, well, maybe that's not how it should be. And being able to switch that a little bit, but yeah, I love this idea, and I have accepted it into my life lately, like, question it, ask why, and then some things are done for a really good reason. There are some things that are in place and are done a certain way because it's the safest best practice, and those things, yeah, we should keep those around, right? Like, my product gets tested for SPF testing, although the SPF testing process, also why this is not a good process, but I can't change that, unfortunately. I have to play the game. That's one of those categories of like, wow, this is question everything. The SPF testing is really a big question mark over here, but it is what it is. But then the next layer is, okay, we've played that game, we've passed the SPF testing. Now the next layer is you'd have to test the product at 3 different stages. And it is really good practice because you're checking for organisms and ingredient amounts and all those things. So some of those best practices, yes, keep those around. I'm all about them. But other ones, yeah, question it. Why? Why is it this way? And if it doesn't make sense, fix it, change it, don't do it that way. Yeah.
And if someone answers it because that's just the way it is, that should throw up
That's
every
the way
red
it is.
flag possible in your brain of like, ooh,
But don't you think
that
that's
probably
kind
needs to
of
be improved or done
that's because
entirely
it's kind
differently
of
or
a
rethought.
lot of mainstream school is this way. Like, my daughter will come home to me and ask me these questions, and I catch myself all the time being like, "Because this is school, this is what you do." I'm like, "Huh, this is a horrible answer." So it has fed into every area of my life, even with my kids. Like, it has, like, I've
Yeah.
pulled them out of standardized testing because why are we doing that? It's just been done that way for so long. Like, do my kids really need to be standardized tested in 3rd grade? No, this is not a thing that should be happening in my opinion or in my world. So, yeah, it's fed into a lot of different areas of my life.
I spend a lot of time, I have young kids as well, 4 and a 7-year-old, and spend a lot of time with them catching myself on the same thing. And I try to be really conscious of it when I feel myself starting to do the because I said
Then
so.
you're just tired.
And like I have to
Ask me
stop and
tomorrow.
kind of yeah, it's like I have to walk away from it for a minute. Yeah, and come
Yeah.
back and explain the why. Because I do think that, trying to get somebody to understand how or what to do without explaining to them the why is difficult.
Mhm.
I mean, and that's just a leadership thing as a whole, like just demanding someone to do something without explaining to them the rationale. It's like teaching a man to fish
Totally.
versus just giving them the fish.
So much
But it is
easier.
hard, when you are tired and it's a 5-year-old that's just going, the alternative to that is
Everything.
then they just start asking why for
Yeah.
everything. You're like,
It's a slippery
because
slope,
I said
Adam. It
so.
is a slippery slope with kids. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So shifting gears a little bit, going from the world that you've been operating
Mhm.
in medicine, as a PA and as a mom, and shifting into this
Mhm.
wild world of entrepreneurship that you have, in the handful of years you've been doing it now, 5 or 6 years, even if it was blended with work and family. We have these wild ups and downs. How do you deal with that? What are the things that you have done in life to try to manage and maintain while also, keeping a household and doing all the things that we have to do as parents?
Well, that's a really good question. It's a very deep question. I'm going to talk about the thing that I think is the most beneficial, especially for female entrepreneurs. The thing that I probably struggled with the very most. This has so many layers to this question. I could think of so many ways to answer this, but I think the one I want to focus on is the female entrepreneur aspect of this. Growing up, I didn't see women own businesses. Like, it wasn't something that I saw. The only person I ever saw own a business was my grandma, who she was a hairdresser, and she owned a beauty shop called Van's Beauty Bar. And I watched her, but in my mind, that wasn't the same thing as owning, like, my grandpa owned a plumbing store, and he had tons of employees and they would go out and do plumbing in the community. And like in my mind, he was the business owner and she was just working. Like I didn't see women own businesses outside of that. And I don't even think as a young person that clicked. Now looking back, I'm like, wow, she was an entrepreneur. She owned a business, but that didn't click as a young girl. I always thought about, my grandpa over here making the money and running the business, and hers was just like a side hustle or something. I don't know how I pictured it, but growing up, I just didn't see that. And so, sorry, I was raised by a single mom who was a school teacher, and her entire pitch to me my whole life was education, like get an education, get an education. It was very traditional, which is why I ended up in medicine. Education was everything, right? Like formal traditional education and degrees were so important to her. And then they were important to me because they were important to her. And I didn't see women owning companies. I didn't see women going out to be an entrepreneur. I didn't see women doing that. So when I went down this path of doing that, I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to juggle it all. I didn't know how to not feel guilty about juggling it all. It was a big mystery to me. And what I found was that you just need to set up the right systems and you need to get the right amount of help. And I think as a woman, and maybe it's just a me thing, I don't know, so resistant to that help. I was like, no, I can do it all. I can keep the laundry going and the house good and the kids and the business. Like I can do all the things and I can even keep my job and I'll just have this as a side hustle. I thought that in my head for a long time. Like that's just sort of what I had pictured. And then what I realized is if you're really going to go for it, if you're really going to be an entrepreneur, if you're really going to do this, you have to go for it fully. And you got to set up the system and dive in and go all in. But what that looks like is you need help. And you have to have people that can pick up the pieces that you're dropping. So I have a really great system around me of people that help. Like I have a fantastic full-time person. Her name is Katya. She's my right arm. It would just be like pulsating, dying of blood loss over here without her. She keeps my life running and does the things that I used to do in the home that I have now passed on to her. That doesn't mean that she's taking over being a mother. It means she's putting in the laundry, she's putting away the groceries, she's dropping my kids off sometimes if I have a meeting, she is picking up the house, she is upstairs with my kids right now running around, like she is filling in for me where I can't be there. And that used to be in my mind like I was failing, that I wasn't fulfilling the role that I was supposed to because I'm a mother. But the truth is, like, I passed off the things that were menial and not important to me, like that I could pass off. Like, I don't need to be the one putting the clothes into the washing machine and folding them. And I don't need to be doing that. I can hire somebody to do that while I can be working over here and reading a book to my kids or doing this activity with them, right? Like I had to do those trade-offs. And I don't know why that was so difficult for me at the beginning to think that I could hire that out or that I could find people to fill those roles for me. But there's no way to do this without that. And that's the trade-off. And if that isn't something that you want to pass off, if you don't want to hand those things off, you're probably not going to be successful over in this area because you can't do everything all at once. You can do everything, just not everything all at once. And you have to decide what things you're willing to trade off and let go of. And I think anyone who thinks that, because I get this question all the time, like, how do you do everything? How do you do it all? I'm like, I don't. The answer is like, I don't do it all. I don't do everything. I pick the things that are really important to me and I protect them and I keep them and I do those things. And the other things that I can pass off, I hire that out. I don't do everything. I do the things that are really important to me over here in this bucket. And in this bucket, I find people that can fill those needs. So that's been the most important thing for me. Like that's been the way that I haven't lost my sanity, is that I think there's a lot of people out there, women, I hate to keep pointing us out, but like we want to do it all. And I think we have this pressure on ourselves that we should be doing it all. And the truth is, you can't and you shouldn't be. And if you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to own your own business, you literally can't do all of the things that you used to do. You're going to have a trade-off. And that was hard for me to let go of at first. And now I wonder like how I ever thought it was okay for me to have the mindset of anything else. But it was a big mindset shift for me, and I had to set up the systems. Yeah.
Yeah, it's evolution. I mean, it's the education that you got through that, and that's
Yeah.
incredible advice for anybody,
Yeah, I hate to
particularly
point out the women
for
thing. It's
women
for
and
everybody.
moms,
Yeah.
because it does hit us different. Like it hits
Well,
it hits
what's
dads
funny, like I was
differently.
getting
There's no question.
interviewed by a magazine for, I won't say the magazine. Anyways, there was an interview I was doing, and the girl asked me like, how do you juggle everything as a mom and an entrepreneur? And I think I probably laughed pretty hard at the question because, like, again, you don't juggle it all. Like, you have to put down some balls and keep the glass ones and put the rubber ones to someone else who can juggle the rubber balls. But I went to my husband and I asked him, like, has anyone ever asked you that? Like, you own your own business. Has anyone come to you and said, how do you juggle being a father and running a company? And he's like, no, no one's ever even thought to ask me that question. And I think that's very telling. I think that's a very telling mindset of our society that, like, women are supposed to do everything and they're supposed to run it all and be okay with it. And, like, our minds are multitaskers and that we have this superpower ability that we have more hours in the day and we're able to do it all. And the fact is, like, we don't and we can't. And the pressure that society has created and that the look of how it's supposed to look and the pressures of that. I mean, it's 2026. It's a different time of life. It's not the 1950s. And if you're going to choose this, you're not going to, it's not, you can't have everything over here. And I think you just have to accept that. And that was the biggest mindset shift for me that I've ever had. And my husband was the one really encouraging me, like, let's just get help. Let's hire someone. And I'm like, no, I can do it. I can figure it out. And he's like, honey, I don't cut our grass. Like, traditionally, that's like that's the guy's role. Like, you're supposed to get out there and cut your grass every Saturday. He's like, I want to go play with my kids. And if I can afford to hire someone to cut my grass, it gives them a job and it gives me some free time. I'm going to go hire that job out. Hire someone to do the laundry. Like, you don't have to put the clothes in the laundry. And I'm like, holy 1950s, how did I end up in this mindset? You know, like, why did I think that that was my job in the first place? And, like, that I couldn't find someone to help us get that done. So yeah, I think that was probably the biggest shift. And I have a very supportive who helped me adjust to that, to help me kind of think like he does. And as soon as he said the cutting the grass thing, I'm like, yeah, you don't cut our own grass. And I've never even thought twice about that. And it's fine. And he said, yeah, because I'm playing with our kids. Like, you know, on Saturday, I'm not cutting the grass. I'm throwing a ball with our son. Like, that's the trade-off. And I thought, man, that's the trade-off. Yeah.
That really is great. I don't have anything to add to that.
Good.
I feel like that should just be left on its own. Where do you want people to find you? I mean, I'm on the Daily Shade site. It looks like, at least as of right now, you're out of product, which is a great problem to have.
I will be in
problem,
stock.
but
I will go pick up product next week, which is very exciting. We manufactured a few weeks ago, and then we filled bottles, and it's all this testing I was talking to you about, how they have to go through and retest. It's a very particular third-party testing situation, which is, again, a good system. It should be there. I'm proud of it. It should be there. So we pick up product next week, and we'll have, you know, a lot of product in about a week. So you can go to Daily Shade, DAILY Shade, SHADE.com. That's our website. And you can do a pre-order. All the pre-orders that we're getting now, we're giving them free gifts just for being patient and waiting, like a free shade brush and a free bag, things like that, just for being such patient customers. But yeah, go to our website. And then our Instagram is Daily Shade Sunscreen. And it's called Daily Shade because you're supposed to put your sunscreen on every day, right? Like Daily Shade, putting on your sunscreen every day. But yeah, you can go to our website, our Instagram. My personal Instagram is Mrs._sunscreen. So if you're looking for, you know, any kind of like individual advice from me, you can find me on both accounts. They'll send me the message on the Daily Shade one or at Mrs. Sunscreen as well.
Perfect. I'll make sure all the links to that end up in show notes. This has been really fun. I deeply appreciate your going deep on answering at a very personal level the structure and things that you've been able to put in place to solve.
Thank you. And I love that my girls and my son get to see it done that way. I mean, it's a different way than I grew up, and it's fun to be able to have them, like, this is now their norm. This is what's normal to them. And I think that's, if nothing else, like, even if I never sold another bottle of sunscreen in my life, like, that's very powerful for them to see that. Yeah. Thank you, Adam. That was so fun. Thanks.
Thank you again for coming and sharing time with us. Really appreciate it. A huge thanks to our guests today. Don't forget, this is powered by Pentane Financial and Advertising Command Center for Consumer Brands. Stop what you're doing, put your phone down, walk away from the computer screen, go outside, get some air, do something hard, push your limits, get uncomfortable, become more durable and more resilient, create the stamina required to get through those entrepreneurial barriers, stay in the game for as long as you can, and we will see you next time.